Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Upset Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, but you know I'm not alone. I have the crew here with me. What's up, Upsetters?
Hello, hello.
We're up.
Happy
Sunday.
Sunday.
We're back, and excited to tackle another topic. One of the things that we said about this podcast is that, there are going to be topics that we bring back to the table because we feel that they're just that important. And that's what we're doing today. We're going to talk about a subject that is still in the news and still something that we want our viewers and our listeners to have at the forefront of their minds. Sometimes the headlines, guys, can steal our attention away from some of the things that are important. We're following Bill Cosby, we're following the Olympics and all. And sometimes in doing all of that, we jump over very important things that we need to be aware of, such as voter suppression.
Yeah.
And so we're going to tackle that subject once again, talk a little bit about it and some of the upcoming things that have come with it in recent days. And Marlena, you weren't with us when we covered this the first time, so we're going to have you lead us in this discussion, shed some new light for our viewers and listeners today. So start us off.
Hello, everyone. It's so good to be here with you today. And I tell you, this is one topic that I have so much passion about because I just strongly believe in equality for all people. And with this topic, as I want to share, I want to alarm you or awaken your senses to not believe all the hype that you hear about voter protection, but to know what's really focusing and what's facing Black and brown people today. So we're going to go a little bit deeper in that. And just to give a start, my passion is so strong because we know it's just been since 1965 that we have been allowed to vote as a Black race. And so we see, well, what is this? Just maybe 60 something years later, and we're still having issues with us voting. So the hype out there is that it's voter protection. Really? What votes are we trying to protect here, right? When you start to take away people's ability to vote, people's convenience to vote, and you're minimizing those things so that you can get the votes that you need. And so we're going to talk about that today. I'm reminded in 1965 and before that so many people died for this right to vote. That's how passionate it was. If they died then, what should we be doing now? I think we should be out there. I'm just kind of concerned that it's not more of an uproar as it should be. And so family here, tell me something that you think about voter suppression. When they start taking away the different precincts, so you have less in the community. When they say standing in line, it doesn't mind how long you stand. We cannot give you water. No celebrating, no dancing, taking away the Sunday preaching time, when people would go out to vote immediately after church. So they changed the time to make it a little bit more inconvenient. Talk to me a little bit about that. How do you feel about that?
Well, before we go there, in case anybody is listening or watching and you're not sure what voter suppression is, the definition of voter suppression is a strategy used to influence the outcome of an election by discouraging or preventing specific groups of people from voting. So that's what voter suppression is. So now you can dive in about your feelings and how you feel about it. But we wanted to just lay out there what it actually is.
While you're there, can you also bring out voter protection? Because the word is that we're not really suppressing, we're protecting.
Yeah, that's for.
It's called lying.
Yeah, that's for Charles.
Misinterpreting.
In the definition of it, though, what comes out at me the most is minorities, low income, the elderly, those who are in different areas. I don't want to call them ghettos because I don't want to even say that, but. What bothers me about that is that it really shows the power that sector has. If you're going to say, I want to pull them back from voting, or I want to find some way for them not to be able to vote, those who there are many people, especially in the cities, who don't have driver's license. Right?
Yep.
You think about that, right? If you're living in Manhattan, and no one in Manhattan has driver's license. They don't drive cars in Manhattan, right? So you have to think about those type of things to say, okay, look what happened in Georgia. And I know, Marlena, we were talking about that in the green room before. No one expected for that state
win.
to turn, that state to turn, or many of these states to turn. So now they have to do something about it. So GP, when you were talking about the definition of it, that made me look deeper into it to say, wait a minute, what we're actually talking about here is hitting the minority groups or hitting certain types of groups.
Yeah, you're targeting the minorities because you are threatened by their power.
That's right. That's right.
So voter suppression is an oligarchical movement. The idea is to retain power in the hands of the few at the expense of the participation of the many and the weaker. And so voter suppression is really a discussion about inequality and about abuse of power. Would I be correct in saying that?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Very much so. And if we could go back to Georgia, because I think that was really the grand upset there when we turned out. It was unexpected in a off election. It was not a presidential election. It was a Senate election. And so Stacey Abrams and many of them fought hard to get the people out, and they did come out. What do you think about this now at Georgia? They have made these rules that they've cut back some of the precincts, right, that the people could go and vote. They made these rules where you can't give out water or food, no dancing, no celebrating. But listen, in the midst of all of that, they said, we're going to change the law so that the electoral board can decide which president or which election or which politician to choose. They are going to make the selection after all of the votes have come in. What do you think about that? So in other words, if I get all of my people out to vote and we get the masses to vote, and they say, too many people came out to vote for the person that we don't want to win, we're going to now change it to
what system is that, Marlene? I'm not sure which one you're speaking of.
That's in Georgia.
Oh, wow.
They have decided, and they wrote it a law. That's why it's all up in the courts now, that they can choose. Remember, with our former president, number 45, he wanted them to change the electoral count. He wanted them to change it when it came to them. He wanted them to change the vote, but the law did not state that they could do it. So Georgia went through and changed that law so that no matter how the votes turned out, they could change it and make it in the way they wanted it to go. What do you think about that?
It's crazy at the end. It's like, it's retaliatory. I mean, when we think about, how this started, and I think, Pat, you were bringing this up, after the Obama administration, that we're big mad. They're big mad that even took place. And even then they started strategizing. And then now with 45 not being reelected, it's like it's charged up even more. And it's kind of creating this tug of war. It's like, oh, you're on the winning side now. Now we have to pull you back further. But I think we're at a point now, we're aware of these things. Of course, we fight them, but we also prepare. Should we lose, should these things be voted, we also have to come up with strategies to counteract it. We have to pull back the rope in our favor. And we have to do even things like this, educating people about the fact that this exists, showing them what they do. We talked about the voter IDs, show them what they do to get their voter ID in time. Whatever tactics that they're laying out there, we have to have some type of counteraction in place, because they're not going to let up. They are really, really upset that they're not getting their way. And,
I agree. And I don't think we should be just reacting to what's going on. We need to be planning strategically, long term, both nationally and locally. A lot of people sleep on those local elections where it really matters. So we need to be mobilizing, organizing all the time. Thinking about who would we like to see in office in the next decade, like start planning, working towards that end, just like we do in the conference office.
Big Bird would say. Shots fired. Shots fired.
Look, that's why Tally is going out, because he wants to be the president.
That's probably what it is. That's probably what it is. That's probably what it is. You know, I don't even want to get to the super depth of this, but when we're talking about things like gerrymandering, to be able to,
I used to date his sister.
Yeah.
She must be pretty old.
She cute. Voter registration, voter turnout. You know, I mean, you're right. Every time we think about voting, we're thinking about presidency.
Right.
Even Senate and all of that. Yeah. We ought to be thinking about what's going on in our local.
Absolutely.
Your sheriffs, your
judges,
your school board, your judges,
your governors.
Your governors, even your governors. We ought to be thinking, and I think we're governors are, there are a lot of people who don't even vote on governorship or whichever they just go for the. What I think we have to recognize here is that this is now unfair. It's coming down to a point where even when you're talking about in the Republican Party, and I have friends who are Republicans. I mean, I don't have any problems with Republicans. I'm going to put it out there right now. I just have a problem with whether you're not fair or not. That's where I'm at. And I think that where we are now is that once they saw something, and I think Latasha said it before, once we saw that they had lost, there's now an actual plan for voter suppression. There's an actual plan to say that, hey, if these types of people are not are gonna vote, if we're gonna get 50, 60, 70,000, remember now, every vote counted when it came down to this thing, right? When you look at something like that, now you have to see they have to put voter suppression in a place where it doesn't look like corruption.
Let me ask a question just to throw a monkey. I'm sorry, Charles, were you going to go ahead?
Well, no, I was just going to throw into the ring the thought that this is, while we feel it is targeted toward minorities and people of color, we also have to understand that this will backfire on the poor.
Yeah.
It's the poor. And there are many whites who fall in that category that this voter suppression will affect. And we need to, even in our language, in our discussion, we should be talking on a broader scale that would be inclusive of whites who have the same concerns that minority groups have. I know with Reverend Barber, William Barber, the Poor People's Campaign, his language and his approach is poor people. Which is inclusive of white, black, brown, yellow, whatever color you want to throw in there. And I think if we start speaking on the terms of not just a race of people, but a class of people, we could get more buy-in from more people, I believe.
I mean, it's his. I had the privilege of interviewing Reverend Barber. He calls it the Fusion Coalition. And you're right. I mean, it's racism is an expression of abuse of power as it is affected on people of color or people of a particular race. And you're right, Charles. I think that's a good point. But let me monkey wrench this discussion as it's so unlike me. I mean, but.
Totally.
We're ready for you. Shoot.
What are you talking about, Tim?
I mean, when you think about it, when the church gets involved in something, it's because of an ethical or moral perspective. We think that there's something wrong or right. Let me ask this question. From a religious, from a biblical perspective, is there a sacred right for each individual to cast a vote? And there was silence in heaven for the space of a half an hour.
Come on, Pat. Absolutely.
Well, I think the larger question with that is, are we supporting democracy or not? Is democracy tied to the right to vote?
I would ask that.
Come on, Chuck. Come on, Chuck. Yes.
Well, then, but
absolutely.
It is? Well,
Well,
okay. I was hoping
if you're gonna
somebody
do
would say
it,
that.
Democracy with
I
the
was
right
hoping
to
somebody
vote.
would say,
We're
"Oh,
falling into a
just
trap.
now we reeled him on in."
I'm gonna
Because
I'm gonna
in
ask
first,
the producer to take out Nick as quick as we can.
It's a trap. It's a
Yeah,
trap.
it's a trap.
First Samuel
Bring it
chapter
on.
First Samuel chapter 11, the people said,
Yeah,
"We'd
man.
like to vote on a king,"
That's
Well,
right.
and God said, "You
Uh-huh.
don't need a vote."
Uh-huh.
And then in 1 Samuel 13, he says, "All right, now behold the king that you have chosen,"
That's
which
right.
was clearly against what God said. So it appears there that there was no sacred right for each individual to vote. I'm just asking these questions academically.
The evangelicals or the supporters of the Donald Trump campaign had that same position. They felt that he was God appointed. Regardless of what you think, God
God's
provided
man.
this for yes. But in the truest sense of God speaking, I believe that if God truly says, you don't have to vote on this, that this is more or less an appointment by me, I'm not going to challenge that.
Yeah.
But for somebody to say, we're not going to vote on this president or this ruler because God told us that he's the man. So we'll be going against God if we decide to vote.
Well, it should be noted that in our church structure, we do not vote for our president.
Well,
That's right. It's true. We don't. Go ahead.
Not only do we not vote for our president, but when it comes to the general election, we don't even vote for the people who vote for the people who vote for the general conference president.
They got appointed.
So if there's some sacred right for individuals to vote.
Hold on.
Hold on. Are you singing a gospel song there, Marlena?
Hold on. Wait a minute.
Keep your hand on that plow.
Hold on.
First of all, I love my God. I don't want that to be misunderstood. And certainly when God was talking to them about being a king, because we need to address what Nick brought out. The people didn't make that choice, right? And so all of these millennia later, are you saying to me that God is still saying in this nation, because God speaks to us at this time as well, are we to sit dormant and allow the wicked to make the decisions for the righteous and whatever they want? God says, no, my people, I just want to be your king. Just sit back and do nothing. Are you telling me, Pastor Tally,
No,
that is what our God is saying today?
I'm reading a question that Pat asked me to read. He said I'm just wondering, is there a sacred right? I was asking a seminal question. Is there a sacred right?
Right.
Because normally the church gets involved in things when there's a clear moral imperative.
Yep.
And the right to vote. Now, I think the right to be treated equal is something that we can gin ourselves up for. But I was just asking that question about voting.
I got you, sir.
And one of the reasons I was asking about voting is because while we're out fighting for every individual to have their right to vote, every individual in our church does not have the right to vote for their leadership. And I'm wondering how sacred that right is if we don't reflect it in our own governmental structure.
I think the difference with that, and I roll with Nick because I know exactly where he's coming. I know exactly where he's coming from with that. But no, when I say that, I know he's coming from. Here's the flip side of it: that the system, even the millennials are talking about that when it comes to church. The system may need to change. Hold on, but let's go back to where we were before. There's no voter suppression as far as it's concerned. There's no plan as far as it's concerned for who will be and who will not be. So I think that where we come down to here is the actual corruption that's placed in by law, just like it was in Jim Crow time. So you knew that you were not going to vote. Let me give you an example about this. There are some people, if they can't get down the street to vote, they won't vote.
Right.
All right. I mean, and there are actually people who are saying, hey, these set of people will not be able to vote if we close off these streets.
That's
or
right.
if we take these mail-in, okay, let's look at mail-in ballots, for example. If these mail-in ballots, if we can't get them to go down the street to drop this off, then their votes will never work. The military, as far as their voting is concerned, all of those type of things. Now, the reason why I'm bringing that piece up is because, Nick, you're right. God was the one that was supposed to choose all of our rulers. We knew that, but we done jacked up anyway, and we screwed up the system. So now we're at a place where we have to cast lots. So right, we have to cast lots. So, for example, Nick, who's the 13th disciple?
Matthias.
That's right. Matthias is the 13th disciple.
I'm so glad I knew that, because, man, you would have had me looking stupid.
I'm telling you, I was
going to say Rufus.
Right? But Matthias was not chosen by Jesus.
He wasn't.
Right?
And he quickly disappeared from the scene.
Yeah, you didn't even hear about him.
Never heard of him again.
So I do think that casting lots is a great thing to do, but on the flip side of it is who we keep away from casting the lots, or who we keep away from doing. I think that's where the big thing comes.
On that note, there are two people. There's 6 of us here. There are 2 of us here who are being suppressed in their voting at the general conference level. There are certain votes that are taken at the general conference level that involve only people who have positions based upon ordination, and the general conference will not recognize ordination for 2 people in this group, which therefore suppresses their ability to vote. Well, Marlena cannot vote and Tasha cannot vote because the general conference will not regard their ordination as being valid. Isn't that voter suppression for women?
I would like to.
Wow. Marlena's. Marlena's.
I agree with you, brother.
I like you now.
I agree with you, my friend. Absolutely. So we see that wickedness. But listen, guys, this is how important, because the wickedness of the world creeps into the church. You know,
believe it.
Because the church, many of the church have the same values as the world. And so now the church becomes like the world. But listen, the issues, and I want to get back to this, Pat, because we're going to have to close soon. I want to get back to this, Pat, to just kind of defend your Republican friends, because we all have Republican family friends, right?
Just Pat.
But listen.
Yeah, Pat, your friends.
We all have Republican friends. But listen, when people lie to you over and over and over, and we have to remember that number 45 says, I don't lose well. Yeah. I have an issue with losing. Nick. And he starts to lie to say, I really did win and we won big. And you keep telling him and telling him and telling him. So Pat's friends started to believe it.
Lord have mercy. I know she listen, let me just say this.
No disclaimers.
Blacks, no. We used to be Republicans.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
That's right.
We used to be Republicans.
Back in the day. Yeah,
and the only reason why we used to be Republicans is because of what they stood for back then, as far as what they stood for, especially the religious beliefs, or as far as it's concerned. So I have a couple of friends who's Republicans that believe in the democracy way. Okay, so I think I got out of that. Pretty. Don't twist up your mouth.
I have Republican friends that are evangelical, so I'm with you. I'm with you.
Especially in Virginia.
We all still claim Ben Carson, so we all have a Republican friend.
No, we don't.
So
we have to learn to forgive. We got to forgive.
No, I look at 2 sides of this thing, and that's the reason why I say this. It's about being fair.
That's right.
It's about
many
equity.
times, and I think Tally said the word equal, right? As far as it's concerned, I'm not going to jump on anybody for what they. For what they believe, or but once you start taking away the freedom of people,
that's right.
I think that there's a problem when it comes to that. And I talk about the church too, because if you want to look at it, the system of government of the Adventist Church is mimicking the system of government of America, right? That's the way we do the Senates, and that's the reason why Nick was right when he said all of us don't even vote. Because
and so do the social ills,
right?
And the racism.
And that's right. And I think, Chuck, in the green room we were talking about this. We were talking about this earlier, where 45 was trying to, and they're still trying to mess with the electoral the
Electoral
college,
right?
so you can start to move these things around, and the Secretary of States are going to be they're going to take away
their power
away from them. So my biggest thing is, if we keep concentrating on who's Republican, who's democracy, who's socialist, who's this, that, we're missing the actual point of them stepping on toes of not only Democrats, but also Republicans who don't know why they are Republicans.
Right.
Some people are just in it just because. Yeah, go ahead,
right.
Marlene.
But we have to understand that I heard one politician says it's not about every vote, it's the quality of the vote. Y'all get that? The quality is the right people to vote.
Right.
Because if we get the right people to vote, we can move our agenda that's going to affect the whole world. So it's okay to get rid of the poor votes of any color. It doesn't matter, because we want the good quality. We want those that have the mindset that we have. So their plot, and I think it was stated before, in our state governments, let's get our people, the ones that we feel that will bring the quality vote, to be in the positions that we need to make the laws that we need, so that we can move our agenda globally first within our own country, but we can see that many other countries are doing the same thing. I mean, this is so spiritual, Nick, and just getting ready for the things that Revelation speaks of, this whole one world order and having so much autocracy. You know, it is just setting up, and we can see all of the alignment. So hey, that goes to the point where some people say, well, Pastor, if it's going to happen anyway, why vote? Well, you know, I'm not dead yet, and so until I die, I'm going to vote. And my vote has quality.
Can I get Chuck mad for a second? Let me just get Chuck mad for a second. Chuck, I was also reading in North Dakota. That's
impossible.
It's impossible? Okay, well, I got it for you right now. So here it comes. No, the Native Americans, for example. Native Americans.
He's getting, I see the smoke.
Yeah, here it goes. See,
turn red.
Yeah.
Let my people go.
I mean, when you look back at, you want to talk about suppression on the reserves. They don't they don't drive. They don't, they don't have IDs, right? They haven't taken on the American name or the English names, et cetera, et cetera. So then how could they vote? Are you seeing where we're going with that?
Point. Oh yeah, absolutely. And before you made that statement, I was going to say that the whole, the vote is a voice.
Yeah.
In its simplest forms, it's a way of giving a person a voice.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
But from that, the whole system has, been corrupted and changed and manipulated. So from the voice of the individual citizen all the way up to the Capitol, there are so many hurdles, speed bumps,
cross checks,
sidetracks.
Yep.
And then when you say, well, I voted for Senator so-and-so, or I voted for President so-and-so, but the reality is that some of those people, not all, some of those people could care less about your vote.
Sure, right.
That's true.
Because once they get into the higher echelon of the system, it's not run by votes, it's run by corporations and lobbyists.
Right.
There are things that we want that lobbyists will counter.
That's right.
And then you'll say, wait a minute, I voted for Senator this person or Congressman that person, and we voted for that person based on these platforms and these needs. But now I see this guy punking out because some lobbyist brought him a couple of $1 million, and now he's sliding on the promises. And that's what annoys me the most. I am for voting. I am a voter.
Or you're for voice. You're for voice.
Yeah, for voice. But unfortunately, the voting system, the election system has become so contaminated that the voice that says, hey, I want, suddenly gets muted. Very quiet and muted because the machine takes over in Washington that we have no control over.
That's powerful, Chuck. So there's a line that I want to read real quick before we land the plane. It's a quote by Arundhati Roy. It says, "There's really no such thing as the voiceless. There are only the deliberately silenced or the preferably unheard.
Wow.
Well
Yes.
said.
No
Yes.
such thing as the voiceless. Everybody has a voice.
Yes.
That's
We
right.
just silence them and prefer not to hear them.
And you know what? And this is why modern day activists, socialist philosophers say, because people ask them the question, so what is our recourse? How can we change this? And some of the most brilliant philosophers on society and on civilization says the only way you're going to change this is hit the streets.
That's right.
Hit the streets. Now that doesn't mean burn down, the local Taco Bell. It doesn't mean
that's what it means.
overturning cars. It means
burn it down.
hit the streets and have your voice heard in the street. Civil disobedience is, I don't know if we're going to be. I don't know if we're going to be ready for it. But you see on the news, you look at any news service, and you see the thousands of people that are in the streets with their signs, with their bullhorns, facing the riot police.
I think Marlena had asked us earlier, the biblical factor through this, and we had put up Isaiah 1 verse 17: learn to do good, seek justice, correct oppression. And I think, Chuck, that's where we're coming from. The only way to really correct this is the Gandhi way. The way to really do this is the King way, the civil,
Malcolm X way.
I'm not sure about the Malcolm X way, but
Upset podcast. Come on, man.
By any means necessary.
By any means necessary. You're right. No, but look, the only way to be able to correct oppression is to hit it head on. Yeah. That's the only way to be able to do it. And Chuck, so I do agree with you. Our young people, I look at Beta for example, it's time to get our young people together to get them in the streets, right? Enough preaching for right now, enough event planning and all of that, Disney World type stuff. And social justice is true ministry. That is the reason why Jesus died. He died because he fought for the poor. He died because he fought for the widows. He died because he fought for those with leprosy. So I think that's where we need to turn our whole angle. Our angle needs to be on correcting it, and
through peaceful protests.
Yeah, I'm with that. I'm not listening to GP. Don't listen to GP. Yeah, peaceful protests, and that is the way for it to be able to. Can I just say this real quick? We were at camp meeting, and one of the churches in Baltimore had a drum corps, and they did really well in the drum corps competition, and they lost when they should have won. The next day in the parade, they put tapes over their mouths. And during the parade, and I was so mad at them for doing it, right?
That was their voice. Yeah.
Yep.
You're speaking.
They were saying something. They were saying something in the parade. They were saying
it's
something.
Not you. It's
okay.
Not you.
They were saying something in the parade. I was so angry being their 5-star general, saying we don't do this here. I met with them the day like a couple of weeks after because they wanted to meet. They were so angry about what happened. They said to me, not only did you cheat us, when I say you know what I mean, the judges cheated us out of this.
No, it was
but
you.
Then we couldn't even protest the way we wanted to protest. I understood at that time what was going on. And I understood what those young people were saying at that point. This is what we need to do. Protest and correct oppression. That's what I wanted to bring up.
I think Marlena just voted with her feet. Just moved on. So I imagine it's time for us to end.
Yeah.
Well, she's there. You're still there audibly.
No,
aren't you,
it was.
Oh,
I'm here. It was my alarm going out, telling me we had 5 minutes. And so
now we have 4
your
minutes.
alarm telling us.
Right.
When Pat was looking around,
I have a vote against your alarm.
Time suppression.
Yes.
Come on, man.
I was speaking of me. Yes. as we wrap up, I think I love I just love being here with you guys and speaking, because we all have such good insight, and there's so many things as we wrap it up, because I want everyone to give their last tidbit on this. I think I agree wholeheartedly that we must be out in the streets, but not only that, take our voice to the voting, even if we're not getting what we want. We can hold people accountable. We can stick to the fight, never stop, never quit, because God says in this word that he calls us to speak for those who can't speak for themselves.
Right.
Speak for those who are weak. Speak for those, who can't, speak for themselves. It's for us to do, especially when we do have a voice. So I think it's important for all of us to know, do I now just say, well, I'm going to sit back and do nothing in life, just let other people make decisions for me? Or am I going to use my voice? You pray, have God lead you, but let's pray and be vocal. People died so that we could vote. Let's not let those deaths go down as nothing, but let's fight for those things that we find to be true.
Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I think about what Palmer was saying last week in our part 2 of our camp meeting about our young people. If we keep in mind our young people as we tend to make changes, sometimes we'll be a little bit more amenable to them. And that made me think about that in every situation, even this voting. I have 2 daughters. I want to do my part to make sure that they have opportunities and that certain things aren't stripped away from them. I don't want them to come to me one day and say, Mom, did you fight for this? Or Mom, were you advocating for this? How come I'm in this situation? And with that in mind, I think that's how I'm even dealing with this voter suppression thing. I want to do my part to make sure I'm protecting the rights of my people, the rights of the future generation, my children who will follow me. And it made me think about I don't know if you guys know the civil rights leaders met with
Yes.
Biden and Harris about this whole thing. And one commentator was saying that it's not enough to get it up front and make a sound like a sound bite in front of a camera, but where we really fight is with our votes and making sure we're putting changes in place. And so I know that that's what I want to do. That's how I feel like I have the most say, and that's something I'm advocating and hoping that others will do. Not just speaking about it, but getting on those grounds, like you said, and actually voting to make sure those things don't happen.
So my final word is keep the vote, keep the voice, but remain committed to social justice.
Amen. Amen.
Ditto.
Yeah, my final words are social justice is evangelism. So power to the people.
Amen.
My final one is that thing that GP said. That other one. No, that quote. That
Read
quote.
it again, GP.
I need that quote, man. Yeah.
There is no such thing as the voiceless. There are only the deliberately silenced or the preferably unheard.
Right. Wow. I wrote that and sent that to GP. I sent that to GP.
Bring it. Thank you.
Not that you're trying to get any credit. Not that.
No, absolutely. Be sure to put that in the transcript.
I got a real quick question, because I know a lot of people are going to write over this. There's a lot of people who don't believe in voting, voting and all.
Oh no, we don't have time, Pat. We don't have time.
We don't have time. I was going to say for them to be able to write us and we could be able to talk about it. That's you, Nick. Nick, you're supposed to be pointing downward.
Point.
Oh, it's down there. Right there.
That's right. Upset at ACSDA.com. Tell us what you think.
If you upset, holla at us.
Yes. This is a safe place for those who are upset. So comment if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. We'll see those a little later. And also email us. Of course, while you're there, subscribe, follow us. We're on all major podcast platforms. Follow us on Facebook and YouTube as well. Continue to be upset with us. We don't stay upset, right, guys? We don't stay upset.
And for the right.
Yes, that's right.
That's right.
Upset.
All right.
All right. Great convo, everyone. And we'll see everyone back next Sunday at 6 p.m. for the Upset Podcast. Peace out.
Take care. Have a great week.